I did not see enough female role models given the opportunity to do what I knew I had to do: to run my label and management company, to direct my films and produce my tours. That meant ownership. Yes, I've been blessed to have 24 Grammys, but I've lost 46 times. That meant rejection 46 times. Please don't ever feel entitled to win. Just keep working harder.
She is the most successful female artist of the 21st century. She is the biggest cultural icon in America. Beyoncé, the queen of the global music industry. Everyone thinks she's living a life so perfect no one could ever touch her. But that perfection is only the shiny surface the world sees. Behind that queen crown lies a chain of tragedies Beyoncé has silently carried for more than 20 years. A childhood turned into a money-making machine by her own father. A marriage that looked perfect on the outside, but was shattered by infidelity, betrayal, and violence. And the biggest shock of all, the mystery of a child. The Carter family has fought to hide in the shadows for years. You think Beyoncé is Hollywood's untouchable goddess? No. She's a woman who has carried pain, betrayal, and inhuman expectations placed on her by the entire world. At 44, her tragedies aren't just heartbreaking, they send chills down anyone who hears them. And the final tragedy will bring you to tears. From the moment she was a little girl, Beyoncé's life was no longer her own. A stolen childhood, the story that has never been told. Houston, Texas, fall of 1981. Inside a small hospital in the 3rd Ward, the cry of Beyoncé Giselle Knowles echoed on September 4th. No one in that room knew. The baby they were holding would become America's greatest cultural icon. Beyoncé was born into an African-American Creole family. Her mother, Tina Knowles, was a skilled, gentle, well-known hairstylist. Her father, Matthew Knowles, was a disciplined, ambitious Xerox sales executive. When Beyoncé was 7 one summer afternoon, Tina played Whitney Houston in the living room. Beyoncé, curly-haired, wide-eyed, shy, suddenly began singing along. But the moment froze the whole room. Her voice was loud, strong, perfectly on beat. Nothing like a child's voice. Matthew, who had dealt with high-level clients, his whole career stood frozen like he had just discovered a treasure. That very night, he told the family, "She's a star. Starting today, I'm training her." Beyoncé, a child who couldn't even spell the full alphabet, became his biggest life project. Military training. Her childhood disappeared that very night. Matthew transformed the garage behind their house into a makeshift studio. Mirrors, speakers, microphones, even heat lamps to simulate stage lights. From age 7, Beyoncé began a schedule no child could ever imagine. She had to sing while walking, sing while exercising, dance non-stop without losing breath. She trained until her clothes were drenched in sweat. And especially, she had to stand in front of the mirror for hours, repeating every move until Matthew finally nodded. Whenever Beyoncé was tired and wanted to stop, Matthew said one sentence: "Do you want to be ordinary, or do you want to be a legend?" Tina Knowles watched her daughter being pushed to train with a look that was both proud and heartbroken. But she couldn't do anything about it. Matthew believed if you want to be a diva, you train like a diva. He even made Beyoncé practice dancing in high heels when she was just 10, once her feet blistered and bled inside her shoes. Her father told her, "That's the price of greatness." Matthew was obsessed with creating the perfect star and put Beyoncé on diets when she was only 10. Many fans believe this is why Beyoncé later became obsessed with her appearance. And just like that, her childhood was gone. Destiny's Child, early fame, and the first deep wound. Destiny's Child was born in 1990, right in the same garage where Beyoncé had trained. Matthew Knowles gathered 4 little girls from the Houston neighborhood: Beyoncé, Kelly Rowland, Latavia Robertson, and Latoya Luckett, and formed a group called Girls Time. They practiced in that hot garage on small school stages and at free city festivals. In 1993, they entered Star Search, the biggest talent competition in America at the time, and failed miserably. Beyoncé, only 12, cried backstage, feeling she wasn't good enough. That same night, Matthew announced, "We will never lose a competition again." That was when he began tightening control. Longer practices, harsher discipline, stricter routines. In 1997, Destiny's Child signed with Columbia Records. This was when Matthew's favoritism became obvious. He gave Beyoncé the lead vocals, dressed her to stand out, and shaped every decision around putting her in the spotlight. Latavia and Latoya, who had loved her since childhood, felt the first cut. In 1998, Destiny's Child released their first hit, No, No, No. It reached #1 on Billboard R&B, launching the group into fame. In 1999, Bills, Bills, Bills became their first #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But behind the scenes, the imbalance grew worse. Beyoncé sang more than 70% of the leads. Kelly got supporting parts. Latavia and Latoya were pushed into background harmonies. They endured it until the paychecks came in. And that was the breaking point. By late 1999, Latavia and Latoya discovered that Matthew Knowles, the group's manager, had been controlling the money unfairly. He signed decisions without consulting them. Worse, they suspected he was taking more management fees than the contract allowed, leaving them earning less than Beyoncé and Kelly. At just 17, terrified but determined, they hired lawyers. At the end of 1999, they sent a formal letter requesting reduced managerial control, financial transparency, and fair distribution of vocal parts. They did not want to leave the group. They just wanted fairness. But to Matthew, this wasn't a request, it was betrayal. February 3, 2000. The most shocking moment in girl group history. That day, MTV suddenly aired the Say My Name music video. Fans expected to see the four familiar girls. Instead, beside Beyoncé and Kelly were two strangers, Michelle Williams and Farrah Franklin. Latavia and Latoya panicked. They hadn't received a call. No explanation from Matthew. Not even from Beyoncé. They were kicked out of the group. On TV. It became one of the most ruthless member replacements in music history. Journalists called it the most brutal girl group shakeup ever. The 2000 musical purge. Beyoncé from victim to the villain. The media exploded. Even though she hadn't made the decision, all eyes turned to her. Headlines labeled her the backstabber, the selfish queen, the puppet lifted by her father's power. And Beyoncé was only 18. She later said that 2000 pushed her to the edge of depression. I lost friends. My whole country hated me. I was scared to turn on the TV. Kelly Rowland confirmed Beyoncé cried all the time, but she couldn't say anything. She wasn't allowed to. The adults made every decision. Despite the pain, Beyoncé still had to perform, still had to smile, still had to answer interviews as if nothing was wrong. The lawsuit that shook America. After Say My Name, Latavia and Latoya sued Matthew Knowles, Beyoncé, Kelly Rowland, and Columbia Records. The legal battle lasted from 2000 to 2002. Even though Beyoncé hadn't done anything directly, her name was included as a co-defendant. This made the media portray her as guilty by association. Beyoncé said she barely left the house during this time, terrified of being attacked, terrified of being called a traitor. Michelle Williams later revealed Beyoncé suffered a mental breakdown over the situation. In 2002, both sides reached an out-of-court settlement. No details were ever disclosed. But one thing was certain, their 10-year friendship was dead. Latavia said, "We grew up together. I never imagined it would end like that." Beyoncé said, "It's a pain I'll never forget." She understood that the journey to the top had cost her the most precious things, her youth and the people she loved. It was the first deep wound, and the first warning life gave her. To rise, you must pay a price. Beyoncé left Destiny's Child in 2002 with a heart full of scars. But just when it seemed she might collapse, she began preparing for the greatest leap of her career. A new Beyoncé was being born. A queen in the shadows, ready to step into the light in a way no one had ever seen. A solo career ascends the queen of global music. In 2003, Beyoncé stepped out alone with her debut solo album, Dangerously in Love. Hollywood doubted her. People said she was nothing. Without Destiny's Child, they waited for her to fail. But then, Crazy in Love exploded like a nuclear bomb. The song sat at #1 on Billboard for 8 weeks, transforming Beyoncé from former girl group member into a global superstar in a single summer. Grammys poured in. Stages lit up with her name. A new empire was born. The era of superstar Beyoncé began. But bright light always casts an even longer shadow. Greater ambition, greater pressure. In 2006, Beyoncé released the album B-Day. This was the period she worked like a machine, filming Dreamgirls during the day, recording the album at night, sleeping only 3 hours a day. Beyoncé admitted, "I worked until I couldn't feel my body anymore." B-Day elevated her to the status of a generational music icon, but it also opened the door to a new storm. The media began attacking her, saying she was too ambitious, too perfect, too calculated. The more successful she became, the more people hated her, and every tiny mistake turned into a global headline. Sasha Fierce, the second persona, born from exhaustion. In 2008, Sasha Fierce was released carrying masterpieces like Halo Single Ladies and If I Were a Boy. This was when Beyoncé created her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, a second personality who was fearless, powerful, cold, flawless. But behind that persona was a frightening truth. Sasha Fierce was created to hide Beyoncé's burnout. She said, "I created Sasha because the real Beyoncé was too tired to go on." The first time she dared to stand against her father. In 2011, Beyoncé made the biggest decision of her life, firing her father, Matthew Knowles, the man who had controlled every part of her existence since she was 7. The decision came after suspicions about financial issues and mismanagement during her tour. For the first time, Beyoncé stood up against the man who had shaped her, pushed her, and molded her since childhood. After cutting ties with her father, Beyoncé fell into a crisis. She didn't know who she was. Without Matthew, didn't know her true artistic identity. The media called her ungrateful. Her album 4 became her declaration, "I am Beyoncé, not Matthew Knowles' creation." Renaissance, a rebirth of silver light and freedom. After the family fallout, after a decade of relentless drama throughout the 2010s, Beyoncé returned stronger than ever. With Renaissance, an album bathed in silver, celebrating personal freedom, ballroom culture, and the LGBTQ+ community. The Renaissance World Tour in 2023 brought in nearly $579 million, shattered multiple records, and made Beyoncé the highest-grossing female touring artist in history. One show alone generated over $10 million, equal to an entire year of revenue for a typical A-list performer. The peak of fame is where Beyoncé stands. But it is also a dazzling golden prison, where expectations, judgments, and stereotypes lock around her every single day. At the very moment her career was burning its brightest, when the world believed Beyoncé had everything, she met the greatest destiny of her life. But Beyoncé had no idea that behind that love, a tragedy was waiting for her. Marriage to Jay-Z, love and betrayal. In 1999, Beyoncé was 18, still shaken from the chaos. With Destiny's Child still carrying the wounds of a girl forced to grow up too fast under the weight of stardom. Jay-Z was 30 at the time. The most powerful rapper in New York, Wealthy Sharp experienced a man no one dared approach without real confidence. They met on a flight to MTV Spring Break. Beyoncé sat by the window, quiet, shy, carrying a purity that Hollywood hadn't touched yet. Years later, Jay-Z admitted, "I saw in her a purity I had never seen in my life." They talked non-stop through the entire flight. And then they kept talking, calling, meeting, becoming each other's safe place. For a whole year they got to know each other, without daring to call it love. Beyoncé said, "We built the foundation, before we built the house." In 2003, the world began to speculate when Beyoncé and Jay-Z appeared together in '03 Bonnie and Clyde, and later in Crazy in Love, a true cultural earthquake. Their chemistry was explosive, impossible to ignore. Yet they still refused to confirm the relationship. No events together, no photos, no interviews about each other. It was a love story almost outside Hollywood, private, deep, intentional. Jay-Z wanted to protect Beyoncé from the chaos. Beyoncé wanted to keep the most beautiful parts for herself. For 5 years they loved each other like they were guarding something sacred. The most secret wedding in the world, and the vows that brought them to tears. On April 4, 2008, they were married in Jay-Z's New York penthouse. No extravagant gown, no red carpet, no paparazzi. Just 40 loved ones, white flowers, white candles, and 2 people who had grown up too fast, carrying too many scars. Beyoncé said, "I just wanted him to be home." But tragically, this home would later become the place where she felt her deepest pain. The miscarriage, a wound that never healed. Around 2010, at the peak of her career, Beyoncé and Jay-Z decided they were ready for a family. Beyoncé discovered she was pregnant. For a woman who spent her entire youth fighting in a brutal industry, becoming a mother felt like the most precious gift. She stopped working. She started writing a diary for the baby. She dreamed of a peaceful home where she wasn't a superstar, wasn't a diva, wasn't a queen, just a mother. Then one morning, something felt wrong. She went to the hospital. The doctor looked at her and said 4 words that shattered her world. "There is no heartbeat." She collapsed right there in the exam room. Jay-Z froze silent, unable to speak. Beyoncé fell into depression, withdrawing, unable to sleep for weeks. But she wasn't allowed to be weak. Hollywood does not permit women to break. She had to smile for cameras, while her heart was breaking. Blue Ivy, the light that pulled Beyoncé out of the darkness. In 2011, Beyoncé became pregnant again. This time, she shared the joy on the MTV stage, holding her belly with the brightest smile the world had ever seen. Blue Ivy was born in January 2012, pulling Beyoncé out of grief, out of depression, out of the black hole that once swallowed her. Jay-Z even cried while recording, "Glory having you is the best thing I've ever felt." But that happiness was only the calm before the storm. Infidelity, the deepest fracture in Beyoncé's marriage. In 2013, when Beyoncé began the Mrs. Carter Show World Tour, many in the industry started noticing clear changes in her relationship with Jay-Z. They no longer appeared together as often as before, and backstage during the tour, the two frequently moved separately. No one involved spoke up, but whispers of a marriage crisis began to spread. By 2014, the public finally learned that those whispers were not rumors at all. Jay-Z publicly admitted in an interview with the New York Times that he had cheated and that it stemmed from emotional issues and the way he shut himself off. He said, "I hurt the person I love, and that's something I have to live with every day." Beyoncé never revealed the identity of the other woman. The phrase "Becky with the good hair in Lemonade" was artistic symbolism, not a literal accusation. The media speculated, but there was never any confirmed identity. The only thing Beyoncé acknowledged in Lemonade and in interviews was this: Jay-Z betrayed her, and it nearly destroyed their marriage. The elevator incident at the Met Gala. The truth explodes before the entire world. On May 5, 2014, after the Met Gala, Hollywood's most extravagant event, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and Solange stepped into the elevator at the Standard Hotel in New York. Just seconds after the steel doors closed, something no one could have imagined happened. Solange suddenly lunged at Jay-Z, kicking and punching repeatedly, while the bodyguard struggled to hold her back. Jay-Z stood still, not striking back. And Beyoncé stood in between, calm to the point of coldness, as if she had grown too accustomed to staying silent when storms erupted right before her eyes. The 3-minute video leaked to TMZ, and within an hour it became the biggest media story of the year. All of Hollywood was shocked. America demanded answers. The entire world studied every frame. Why was Solange so furious? What had Jay-Z done? According to reputable sources like Rolling Stone and People magazine, the incident stemmed from long-building family tensions, not any Becky. And not because Solange was defending Beyoncé as false rumors claimed, but everyone could see that this was no ordinary argument. A week later, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and Solange issued a joint statement. "We have talked and resolved this. Both sides take responsibility. We love each other." A textbook Hollywood statement, short, safe, polished. But few believed it entirely. The incident made one thing unmistakably clear. The Carter family was under extreme pressure, and the public began connecting the dots. Issues on tour, the couple appearing together less and less, Beyoncé posting cryptic messages on Instagram, the elevator explosion. All of it pointed to one conclusion: Beyoncé's perfect marriage was cracking. Lemonade, where Beyoncé told the truth. Through art, in April 2016, Beyoncé released Lemonade. Everyone understood instantly she was telling her own story. The album moved through pain, doubt, anger, confrontation, betrayal, self-discovery, and finally forgiveness. No direct accusations, no names, no crude calling out. But Beyoncé confirmed the album was a real emotional journey. Jay-Z broke his silence too. He confirmed to the New York Times that Lemonade told the truth, the pain they survived together. We came to the brink of breaking apart, but we were fortunate that we both wanted to save it. In 2017, Jay-Z released 444, the most honest apology album in hip-hop history. He admitted his mistakes, his infidelity, and the selfishness that hurt Beyoncé. One lyric says, "It all. I'm sorry, I don't deserve you." This was the real apology confirmed by Jay-Z himself. After the storm, a marriage that isn't perfect but endures. After the elevator incident after Lemonade, after 444, Beyoncé and Jay-Z did not break the way the world expected them to. They went through couples therapy confirmed by Jay-Z. They chose to confront, to change, to repair, rather than walk away. In 2017, Beyoncé gave birth to twins Rumi and Sir Carter, the most sacred gift after years of turbulence. Jay-Z said in an interview, "We went through hell together, and we chose to come back together." And Beyoncé. She didn't say much, but every time she stood next to Jay-Z on a red carpet, people saw a woman who was steadier, calmer, deeper. A woman who had endured pain but refused to let pain define her. Jay-Z said in an interview, "We went through hell together, and we chose to come back together." Beyoncé didn't say much, but each time she appeared with Jay-Z, people saw a stronger, more mature woman. Yet in her eyes, there was always a quiet heaviness, like an old scar that had healed but never disappeared. Just as Beyoncé was exploding into a global superstar, when every corner of her career was reaching its peak, it was her own family, the place she grew up believing was her safest harbor, that collapsed in the cruelest way. Family tragedy, a father's affair, a secret child, a divorce, and a broken foundation. Since childhood, Beyoncé believed her parents were the strongest pillars of her life. Tina Knowles was gentle, skillful, always behind the scenes, styling hair sewing costumes, shielding her daughter from Hollywood's pressure. And Matthew Knowles, the strict, ambitious, disciplined father, was the man who shaped Beyoncé's entire career from Destiny's Child to her first solo steps. To Beyoncé, Matthew wasn't just a father. He was the coach, the architect of her path, the man who taught her to be strong, disciplined, and flawless. Until one day, her entire world collapsed. In 2009, 2010, allegations of Matthew's infidelity surfaced in the American press. But what shattered Beyoncé wasn't the rumors. It was the truth. DNA tests confirmed he had fathered a child outside the marriage. The entire country watched the scandal unfold. But only Beyoncé understood the real pain. The man who demanded perfection from her since childhood couldn't uphold his own marriage vows. Tina Knowles filed for divorce after more than 3 decades together. For Beyoncé, that divorce felt like a knife cutting through her childhood. This wasn't an ordinary family issue. This was the destruction of the duo who created Beyoncé. In the documentary Life is But a Dream, Beyoncé, who rarely speaks about her pain, choked up when mentioning the incident. "My family isn't the same anymore." She didn't cry on camera, but her eyes said everything. From that moment, the father-daughter relationship was never the same. Beyoncé stopped working with Matthew, fired him as her manager, and kept distance for years. Not because she hated him, but because she was trying to heal. The man who taught her to stand strong before tens of thousands was the same man who shattered her trust. It was the feeling of being betrayed by the one person she believed would protect her forever. But the tragedy didn't end with her parents. It was only when Beyoncé became a mother that she discovered a pain even deeper, the pain of being unable to shield her child from the cruelty of the world. Sir Carter, the most protected child in America. In the Carter family, all 3 children are loved equally, but the spotlight doesn't shine on them equally. Blue Ivy appears on stage with Beyoncé wins. A Grammy becomes a Gen Alpha icon before turning 10. Rumi appears in Beyoncé's visual projects, soft but radiant. But Sir Carter, their only son, has almost vanished from the public eye. Sir Carter was born on June 13, 2017, alongside his twin sister Rumi. Sir disappeared from the outside world from the very first moment. No official photos, no family appearances. Only a few paparazzi shots from afar with Beyoncé requesting media outlets to blur his face for safety. Fans began asking, why is Sir so hidden? What are Beyoncé and Jay-Z protecting? Is something wrong with him? Is Beyoncé ashamed of her son? But the truth revealed by Beyoncé herself in rare interviews was simple and deeply emotional. Sir is the most sensitive child in the family. Sir doesn't like cameras. Sir is introverted, intelligent, and calm. In a rare interview, Beyoncé said, Sir is very quiet, very peaceful, very smart. He loves anything related to numbers and logic. Jay-Z said something similar on The Shop. He's just like me as a kid, loves to think, loves to observe. Neither of them has ever mentioned any health issues, and no reputable source has reported such a thing. What people noticed wasn't illness, it was Beyoncé's absolute level of protection. The truth behind the protection. A mother's fear. After losing a child, people close to the Carter family have described Beyoncé as a fiercely loving mother who refuses to relive the pain of her 2010 miscarriage ever again. Beyoncé admitted in Life is But a Dream that the miscarriage made her more fearful of life fame and even the spotlight. And because she respects her children's emotional boundaries, she allowed Sir to grow up without the world scrutinizing his every move. That isn't secrecy, isn't scandal. It's love, simple, gentle, and deeply human. At the end of 2024, during a celebration event for Beyoncé's career, a rare video of Sir Carter surfaced online. Not leaked, but casually recorded by a family member. Fans weren't shocked by any problem, they were shocked that he had grown so fast, looked so much like Jay-Z, and carried the calm, introspective aura Beyoncé had always described. In the end, the story of Sir Carter isn't a dark secret. It's the story of a mother who once lost a child, a baby boy, who was born weaker than his twin sister Rumi, and Beyoncé's decision. You don't need to be a star. You just need to be yourself. That's the truth, simple, but profoundly humane. The tragedy is not in Sir, nor in Beyoncé. The tragedy is this: even the most powerful woman in the world is helpless against the cruelty of the internet. Beyoncé's success is so immense, it becomes a crime in the eyes of the public. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she is too good in a world that desperately wants to watch women fail. Hated, misunderstood, dehumanized Beyoncé is not just a singer. She is a global icon, the most awarded artist in Grammy history, a woman whose influence reaches far beyond music. Her discipline has become legendary: no alcohol, no substances, military-level training, and working 16 to 18 hours a day during many phases of her career. That very perfection made people stop seeing her as a human being. Internet culture loves having a queen, but it also loves pulling the queen off her throne. And Beyoncé, who had been worshipped for 2 decades, quickly became a target for every kind of negativity. Whatever Beyoncé did, the public found a way to twist it into something bad. Absurd accusations, the cost of being too powerful. In the age of the internet, where anyone can spread anything, Beyoncé became the perfect victim of conspiracy theories. None of the accusations were ever proven, yet ridiculous rumors spread everywhere. That she was part of the Illuminati using triangles and all-seeing eye imagery. That she used black magic witchcraft rituals to succeed a rumor sparked by an unfounded claim from a former band conductor. Or that she manipulated the Grammys and the media with her influence. Some even accused her of stealing music, even though most lawsuits were dismissed or resolved without confirming wrongdoing. All because she was too big, too visible, an easy target for jealousy speculation, and the human desire to bring someone down. In the end, Beyoncé became trapped between 2 toxic extremes. One side worshipped her to the point of treating her as a deity. The other side hated her so much that they looked for every chance to drag her down. The bigger she became, the smaller her inner circle grew. Close friends, very few. People around her, mostly employees, assistants, stylists, security managers, dancers. That loneliness seeped into her music. Sandcastles, fragile, shattered, aching. Listen, a cry for help from a girl swallowed by expectations. Halo. A confession of longing for love that is real and unconditional. She stands at the peak millions dream of climbing. But it is also the coldest, loneliest place one built for only one person. Wealth power and the weight that comes with it. At 44, Beyoncé is not just an artist, she is an empire. The richest black woman in music history. Someone whose every step leaves behind the imprint of money. As of 2025, Beyoncé's personal net worth is estimated at 800 to 900 million USD, placing her on the brink of becoming a self-made billionaire. Her husband, Jay-Z, is already one with more than 2.5 billion USD. When they stand together, the press calls them the power couple. Hollywood calls them the Carter's empire. And that empire is almost unimaginable. More than 300 million USD in real estate. In 2023, Beyoncé and Jay-Z bought the most expensive home ever sold in California, a $200 million Malibu mega mansion. Walls made entirely of custom glass. A nearly 40-meter swimming pool. Security systems at government level. It's considered the most expensive private residence ever sold in the US. They also own an $88 million Tribeca penthouse, where Jay-Z wrote Empire State of Mind, and Beyoncé recorded the 4 album along with a $10 million historic church-turned-mansion in New Orleans. Their real estate map stretches from California to New York to Houston, plus properties in the Hamptons, Bel Air, and more. Their vehicles and modes of travel are just as extravagant. A Rolls-Royce boat tail worth 28 million USD, one of only 3 in the world designed specifically for the Carters. A Mercedes Maybach Exelero worth 8 million USD. A private yacht costing tens of millions and more than 400,000 USD per week to operate. A private Bombardier jet worth 40 million USD gifted by Jay-Z to Beyoncé after Blue Ivy was born. For them, travel isn't getting from place to place. It's royal procession. And if real estate is territory, Beyoncé's wardrobe is a living art museum. More than 200 custom Balmain pieces, unique gowns from Givenchy, Mugler, Valentino, none of which have duplicates. Her Renaissance Tour wardrobe alone cost more than 30 million USD. The Tiffany diamond necklace she wore for promotional photos, worth 30 million USD, part of the Legacy collection reserved only for cultural icons. To maintain this life, Beyoncé lives with a professional team akin to a royal household military-grade security crowd behavior, analysts, nutritionists, fixed stylists, personal makeup artists, recovery specialists, meditation coaches, senior personal assistants. People joke, you could run a small company with the number of staff Beyoncé uses just to prepare for one appearance. At 44, Beyoncé no longer needs to prove anything to the world. She has completed the full arc of a superstar teenage idol, global diva, cultural icon. But now Beyoncé is no longer chasing hits or chart positions. What she is chasing now is legacy. She devotes her time and energy to preserving black music, reviving forgotten genres, and uplifting young artists without a platform. People think Beyoncé's tragedy is infidelity, or scandal, or pressure, or the crazy rumors that surrounded her for 20 years. But the truth is far more brutal. The biggest tragedy of Beyoncé's life is that her identity has been swallowed by the name Beyoncé. To become an icon, she had to sacrifice things most people consider basic parts of being human. A controlled childhood, broken friendships, privacy that no longer exists. Are you a Beyoncé fan? Comment below. And if you want to uncover the real lives behind Hollywood's bright lights, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the untold stories behind the world's biggest icons.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.